we are out on the outer trail of Samford Conservation Park, getting in a Sunday morning long run, and I'm doing an anti-clockwise loop. Here's the bears. Looking pretty standard today. No, they get dressed up for special occasions, but today they look like they're in their winter pajamas, trying to stay warm. But I just did the westernmost climb, and it said on the map that it was very steep, but I didn't take it that seriously. But oh my gosh, that was exceptionally steep. I'm only just under 2k in at the moment, so it was simultaneously what I needed to warm up, but also what I didn't need. Felt like I wanted to take a little bit longer to get up to temp, and that kind of shocked me into temp pretty quickly there. So guess we're moving now. Pretty flat section at the moment, slightly down gradient, and then climbing another 100 meters or so, but not to the extent just endured. That's the hardest of the run today, unless I manage to get 2 loops in, which is very much a possibility. It's about 5:40 on Sunday morning, so about 30 minutes until the sun rises officially, but probably not going to be much twilight beforehand because it's pretty cloudy. So objective for today is to be on my feet somewhere between 2.5 hours. I'm going to continue to adopt a strategy that's aligned with my plan for the guzzler glass half full, which is, run the flats or the hills that aren't too steep, and the downhills which are manageable, but then really steep hills and steep descents are going to be walked. And I think that should be an achievable strategy. Although I'm week 5 or 6 into the guzzler training plan, and it's just been impacted by work and a little bit of illness, and so I think I've been getting around 3 to 4 hours of exercise in, and that has included being on the stationary bike at home, which is not the best, but I'm keeping some kind of aerobic base here. Man, it is humid. It's kind of... I live in Brisbane, so humidity is often a factor, but one of the things I really look forward to in the cooler months is the fact that humidity typically starts to diminish, and then we finally get some cooler days, and it just gives you a training temperature that's can be close to perfect. You know, warmth just stops, and heat related fatigue stops being a factor. And but we've had about 3 weeks of rainy weather, and it just means that Brisbane's being enveloped in, I'm going to run it through fog and clouds right now. It's being enveloped in clouds, and it's just locking in the warmth and humidity overnight. And so I had a thermal shirt underneath this, but I had to ditch it. It was just too hot within the space of 5 minutes. So I'm back to a t-shirt. I'm just going to stop this because someone's coming, I think. Maybe not. Yeah, so not really getting that nice little break from the relentless humidity. So that's a little sad. I think it may have just been my headlamp reflecting on a signpost. Alright, we're on the final 2 kilometres of the first anti-clockwise outer loop of Samford Conservation Park, I guess the north side of Samford Road, which is just running down there south to us. And there's finally a fair bit of light in the sky, but because of the cloud cover today, it's also still pretty dark around my feet, so I'm keeping my headlamp on to anticipate any major undulations or obstacles on the course. It's not overly technical, it's pretty runnable, which is nice. I think I enjoy the fact that the local conservation parks here are mostly runnable, and they're all, many of the tracks are maintenance tracks, so you know, suitable enough for cars, light vehicles to sort of pass along. So by default they can't be too challenging, but it also lulls you into this false pretense that other trails are going to be like this, and the one thing that I've been wrapping my mind around is the Brausler track certainly is not like this. It is much more technical, and even though we're on fire brakes, they're nowhere near as runnable. So the sky's actually quite pretty. I will target another lap based on whatever time I cross the finish line. Try to get 2 in today. I'm thinking that'll take me to about 2 hours and 20 minutes if I can maintain this pace. I suspect I'll go a little bit faster the second lap because it's brighter. I'm familiar with it. I probably went a bit conservative in the first one, but the other thing that's new in my repertoire is that I picked up a pair of Hoka Speedgoat 7s probably about 4 weeks ago, but then ironically I just couldn't get onto the trails for a while, so there hasn't been too much trail work in them. Oh yeah, we're just over Samford Road here, and there's a pretty sky at the moment. But it's just been physically and emotionally just adding peace of mind that I actually do, and I feel as though I have surer footing underneath. Prior to these shoes, I was running in my old Hoka Bondi 8s, and for the majority of trails they were holding up okay, but they certainly were not trail shoes. So these feel similar in terms of the way my feet feel inside of them, but yeah, it's just, it's nice to feel stable on the trails. Apparently I went to the Trailco shop in, I think, Red Hill area, kind of Ashgrove, the Gap, whichever shop that one is, and just sort of walked in and said, "Hi, look, typically running Hokas, I like them," and the gentleman at the shop had said, "Oh well, we just had the new Hoka Speedgoat 7s arrive, and a lot of people have been inquiring about when they'd be available in the shop, because many people have been hanging out for them." And yeah, so I was completely oblivious to this and was able to just go try a pair on, and they felt great, so I picked them up on the spot. So yeah, apparently I've got a bit of a hot commodity on my feet right now, and I was totally unawares. That's pretty. So, but yeah, I gotta say, I'm really enjoying running in them. It's interesting, the little differences between these in running shoes, like you put your feet inside of these shoes and the inner material is grippier than, say, road shoes. And so you just feel as though you're not going to slide around as much, and the laces just lock into each other so effortlessly. So I'm only rolling with single knots, and I don't think there's any risk of these coming undone unless I were to get a loop caught on a log or something. But otherwise, I don't see it happening. So it's been pretty quiet this whole run, except for now as I make my way back to society. I have not seen another person. That may change very soon, I suspect. Just been me for 55 odd minutes. Plenty of puddles. Has been raining on and off. So that's been keeping it interesting. This is where I usually come in under that bridge if I come from home. But I drove today. Okay. So we just finished lap 1 in about an hour or 3 moving time. An hour and 5 have elapsed. Feeling pretty good. Average pace is 7:40. I kind of estimated it would be 7:30. So, pretty close. Get to start the second lap in true vision, true colour, true light. So that feels nice. Just removes a layer of complexity to just be able to see further than the cone of light that headlamps provide. That's a nice feeling. I suspect the temperature won't increase too abruptly given it's cloudy. There was some blue sky only 10 or so minutes ago, so but it looks as though the clouds are rolling in. It's just another one of those moments where, you know, as the crow flies, trailhead to Samford Conservation Park is about 2 kilometres from my house, and you know, I just haven't, over the past hour I've played it safe. I've done the outer loop. I could crisscross this thing in any number of ways, and certainly when I start spending more time on my feet in individual sessions, like going for 4-hour runs, you know, I could potentially spend the entire time in here and make new routes over and over, and it's just a multitude of reasons why I have to continue to remind myself of how lucky I am to be near stuff like this, and live near the Kedron Brook when I want to run on a safe pathway for, from a running standpoint, longer than you're ever going to need to run unless you're doing a 100k ultra. It's just a lovely place to live, and I hope that these places don't lose their character. But I also appreciate the fact that Brisbane is and will continue to be now a very popular place to live, and that's only going to be exacerbated by the 2032 Olympics. So and I would like, for as many people as possible to have the opportunity of home ownership in some way, shape or form. I've got to caveat that because it's just not as obtainable as it used to be. It's also not as bad here as other major cities. One of the reasons we left Vancouver was because when we had our second child, our objectives shifted a little bit. I think when we had our one child only, we had conceded that we could probably rent nice places for the remainder of our lives in Vancouver. Didn't need much space because we only had one kid. And there's certain stories that you tell yourself, like, well, with a rental property, if anything breaks, the landlord's going to deal with that. That's their problem. They got to fix it. They got to use the money that you pay them to get it done. And while we were lucky enough to have good landlords for the extent of our time in Vancouver, it certainly wasn't the case for others. And living in a rental property over there, at least, it was subject to the whims of the owner, and quite often, if they wanted to find a way to kick you out, they very well could. So we came back here and to Brisbane and bought a very modest house for a family of 4. It's small by the standards of what a lot of my friends would consider the type of size house that you need for a family of 4, but it's got everything we need. And this too is one of those things that I need to remind myself of, that you don't need as much space as you think you do. You can always live leaner with less stuff I mean, we don't have a great deal of space, but we're already accumulating unnecessary stuff, and it's fine. But we could get rid of all of that stuff and still be absolutely fine. The creature comforts that we think are necessary until we're forced to make a decision and realize that they aren't that necessary. So, oh my gosh, this is, I think I said western, but this is the uphill climb on the eastern extent of Samford Conservation Park, and it was almost easier not seeing it at 5 a.m. because, my word, that is steep, and I really don't have anything more to give other than the pace I'm currently going at. Alright, well, I'm gonna switch this off until I potentially have something else to say, or there's just another pretty section of the trail to get on camera. moving freely here. About 2k to go. Probably won't film anything again. It's been a really good session today, and my second loop has indeed been quite substantially faster than the first. I've pulled the averaged speed or pace down by about 10 seconds per kilometre to 7 minutes 30. In the zone right now. Anyway, if you watch this, thank you. If you didn't, no matter. I'll catch you on the next video.